Hi everybody, Dr. Pingle here. I wanted to go over two other places where you can download LiDAR data pretty easily. So the first is going to be a local state agency. So sometimes, most of the time I guess I would say, LiDAR data is aggregated by some state interest. And it varies by state. In Virginia, you can find this distributed via VITA. Which is a part of the VGIN clearinghouse. If you click on this page, you'll get to a download LiDAR data here, and this opens up a web portal for Virginia that you can take a look at online and browse and download all of the pieces that you're interested in. So as you zoom in, you can see that, for instance, the national map data that was available over here was easy to access. Again, sorry, via the national map. But a lot of the western part of the state wasn't. Now that's true that a lot of this hasn't been delivered yet, and so Virginia is a little bit behind in terms of getting a lot of this stuff done. But Blacksburg and Roanoke have been done, and those aren't available via the national map. So if you want to access that data, you can zoom in. And what you'll see are all of the individual little tiles. You've got a base map underneath. And this is nice because it allows you to sort of spatially see what's going on. I can, for instance, download this portion of Blacksburg. You can kind of make out, so here's the drill field. This is the place where Major Williams Hall would be. And if you click on any one of these, this is the stadium. If you click on any one of these, you'll get a pop-up window that gives you a couple of things. One is a ZLAS URL. So this is Esri's LiDAR compressed LiDAR format, and if you click on this, you'll get a pop-up that takes you to the download. So you can go ahead and get that going. You also have DEMs that you can download. So in a future section, we'll talk about the products that come out of point cloud data. At the moment, we're focusing just on the point clouds themselves. And you've got miscellaneous downloads as well. In this case, there's really nothing here. But you can see that this is actually taking you to a download page. Now, this is really handy to know. And oftentimes when you're looking at these things, what you want to do is take a close look at the URL. So as I paste this up here, you can see that what we have is an HTTPS, so a secure web page. It's linked to an FTP site, but we're not accessing it using the FTP protocol. And then we have, this is our directory that we're actually looking in, and then this is the file name that we care about. If you just get rid of the file name, you'll get a page that looks like this, which contains a link to all of the LiDAR files in that particular group. So this is the Blacksburg ZLAS group. And if we move up a directory, you can see that this is where we were taken before. And these are the DEMs. So these are being provided in IMG format, which is AirDAS Imagine format, a raster format, with some accompanying XML metadata. Okay, so our ZLAS data has downloaded. We can show this in the folder right here. Unfortunately, ZLAS is a sort of Esri proprietary format and is not going to work very well with Cloud Compare. But they do offer a converter. So if you go back to the Virginia LiDAR page here, and we click on View Application, we'll get this page, which I kind of glossed over before, which says to decompress the point clouds in the open LAS format, use the free LAS optimizer. So if you click on this, you get some information about it. The LAS optimizer is a free standalone executable file provided by Esri here. So you can click on that. And you can download that as well. So I'll go ahead and do that. So this is a relatively small executable file. Unfortunately, like a lot of things Esri, this is only for Windows computers. So you'd have to extract this out, leading you to this folder. And then you have two different versions of this. You've got a 64-bit and a 32-bit. It doesn't really matter too much which you choose. What you want to do is find your the file that you just downloaded. So this is the we want to, and actually, instead of compressing, going from an open to a proprietary format, we want to decompress. We want to go from Esri's ZLAS file. So we're going to look for the one we just downloaded. Here it is, and we'll hit open. And then this is where we're going to write it out to, and I'm just going to write it out to where we were here. So we're going to select a folder, like so. We can just hit start, and you can see that it goes pretty quickly. It took less than a half of a second. It gives us a little bit of information about the data that we downloaded. So this is about 1 million points, one file. You can do this for whole directories if you wanted to, so that makes life a little bit easier. But now if you look in this folder, we've got a lot of extra stuff kind of piling up here. This was the file that we had downloaded. I think it was this one actually. And this is the unzipped LAS version of it, which we can then bring into Cloud Compare. So we're going to open, actually I'm going to close these down. A couple of older versions here running, previous stuff. And we can drag and drop this in here. Keep in mind that Cloud Compare is not a GIS. It's really intended just to view and work with point cloud data. There is some limited capacity to do some other things like bring in shapefiles, but it's important to kind of remember that this is really just for kind of looking at point cloud data. Again, I'm going to uncheck some of this stuff. If you just hit OK, nothing bad happens, but I'm just going to bring this in so we can look at the intensity values. And so this is the LiDAR file that we just unzipped. And so if you look at it, you can see some of the buildings on campus, or around campus. Some of these are just houses, I expect. And we can do the same thing that we did before. We can go to edit scalar fields, export coordinates here, and then we're coloring by the z-value, which is often a nice way to do it. Maybe add a little bit of a shader here to really kind of see what's going on. So that's a quick introduction to how to download from a state clearinghouse. In Virginia, you're going to have to convert it from ZLAS to an open format. Other states follow different protocols. So for instance, Illinois LiDAR data download is part of the height modernization project. If you go to this webpage, what you get is sort of, instead of an ArcGIS map, you just get a data page that lists everything, and it actually aggregates everything by county, which means that each individual file download is actually pretty large. And not all of them are available. So Cook County has its LiDAR data scanned, but hasn't made it publicly available through this portal. You have to contact the county directly. But for many, you can just go ahead and download the files themselves. But notice that they're pretty large. So that's about 16 gigabytes. In contrast, the data that we just downloaded, the ZLAS file, the one little tile, was about 5 megabytes. This one is on the order of about 1,000 times larger than that. But it encompasses a much larger area. So it kind of depends on, the nice thing about going through a portal like this one, is that you can click on individual little tiles and just download what you need. Whereas the Illinois system is to kind of download one larger set all at the same time. And there are advantages and disadvantages to both of those. If you want all of these tiles and it's about 80 tiles or 100 tiles, then you've got to come up with a way to download all of those individually, whereas it might be nicer to aggregate. The other one that I wanted to show you was the Interagency elevation inventory map, which looks something like this. Now this particular page has quite a lot of data. We've got LiDAR, shoreline, IFSAR data. Downloading, though, doesn't download the LiDAR dataset. What it does is it downloads a geodatabase that links to the LiDAR data. So that can be kind of handy. So you can download that and bring that into ARC. So we'll go ahead and do that. I actually have a copy of this, so I'm not going to do that. But it would have downloaded just fine, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. The other thing that you can do is when you download this, you can see this link. And if you right-click that link, you can bring this directly into ARC without having to download anything, which is often the faster way of doing it. So I'm going to open an instance of ARC Pro here. We'll exit out of this. So ARC will just take a second to load. I'm going to close down some other things here while we're doing that. Okay. We're going to just open up a new project. I don't really care about it right now. You can set the locations of that as you like. And we're going to make a new map document. And bring this information in. So I'm going to add some data. In this case, I'm going to add the data from a path using a local path or URL. So if I had downloaded the data, I would just browse to it as we've done before. But in this case, I want to take advantage of the fact that this layer is online. And I'm just going to paste to that layer that we just got from the US elevation inventory right in here. That's going to go online. It's going to fetch that essentially web layer and tile it in here. And so now what we have is a version of essentially what you saw here in ARC. And so now I can zoom in on particular places and I can query it to see what's available. These are distributed in pretty large chunks. So if you look at this, you can see that the data access here is available via the national map. What it's doing here is it's not even linking you directly to the data, but it's often linking you to who has the data. So again, it's more of an inventory than a data distribution site. But there's some really nice features in here. So you can get some information about, for instance, this is the LiDAR data for Illinois. It's giving you the horizontal accuracy of 1 meter, vertical accuracy of 18 centimeters. It gives you the datum. It gives you the products that are available. Point spacing. So this is the average distance between points, so 1.4 meters. That's a little less than 1 point per square meter. And if you want to get a hold of this stuff, you can figure out, it's giving you links to do that, so you can either access this data via the national map, which again is kind of the default way to do it, or you can go to the Illinois LiDAR and click on that. In this case, this is taking you to Iowa's data. If you click on one of the counties, or if you zoom in here, you can interact with this and download these particular pieces. Now, I would say that the quality of these state distribution nodes can vary quite a bit. So the U.S. elevation inventory is often my last stop for LiDAR data. It's often the most current. So if I'm looking for something that's absolutely the newest stuff, then I sometimes find that this gets included faster here than anywhere else. But because it's so much harder to do the downloading, and it's referring you back to somebody else, I often don't go there unless I absolutely need to. Okay, so we'll wrap up this video. You won't be required to download this data here, but I wanted you to get a little bit familiar with it. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.